Well, good morning. Am I on? Am I on? Can you hear me back there? Yes? Yeah, a little more volume. So I'm just dedicating this talk today to the heart of God for the purpose of clarity, truth, and brevity. So let's all join in that affirmation. Today is a big day for us, and we're doing our second part of our annual meeting, and that is an essential part of our of what we need to attend to as a spiritual community. And I know many of us, including me, wanted to just keep church, just talk about God and truth, but that's sort of what today's message is about, is it possible that we can be deeply spiritual, deeply devoted to this one presence, one power, one life, and at the same time function well in the world? Has anyone ever wrestled with that seeming conundrum?
Yeah. You gotta pay your dues if you want to sing the blues, and you know it don't come easy.
Well, there it is. That title is from the Quran. Love God and tie up your camel. Sort of says it all. I kind of figured if I was really going to have to cut into this message in terms of time, that the title would speak for itself. Loving God is the easy part, you know. Jesus had to add one more commandment, as you'll recall. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. But there's one more. And this is the one where we go, oh, really? Do I really have to love my neighbor as myself? When I was just getting into these teachings, and this is decades ago now, I went in hook, line, and sinker. I became a rabid follower of everything spiritual. And I would dive deep into these teachings. I would, listen to everything I could on audio and read books. And that's all I wanted to do. That's all I wanted to do. I couldn't think of anything more significant, more important, more engaging, more life-changing. And at that time, I was married and we had a young child. And Denise reminded me that the baby still needed to be fed, and you still need to go to work. And all of these mundane matters, were brought to my attention. And I felt conflicted. And I thought, how can it be that, this seems to be so essential, so more important than anything else, that somehow I can't just devote all my time and energy to it. And, of course, I came across those words of Jesus also that said, to be in the world, but not of it. So there's this notion where we can simultaneously be deeply aware of the truth that is us and within us, and at the same time carry out what seems to be the relative truth of our existence as human beings. You've heard it over and over again. You are a spiritual being having a what? Human experience. And I think that's quite accurate, because to say you're having a human experience is to not deny what we're experiencing at this level, at the earthly plane of existence. We have this thing called a body, and there's this thing called a world, and it does have relative existence. And at the level of our understanding of ourselves as human beings, that needs to be honored, that needs to be accepted. But so many of the teachers seem to keep pointing us away from the relative and back to the absolute. Do you know what I'm saying? In fact, many of the ones with isms, Hinduism, Sufism, Buddhism, all talk about the world as being a illusion, or some even would suggest unreal. So if we're sort of stuck in trying to deepen our spirituality, we may tend to lean into discounting this world, right? Feeling like somehow it's an abandonment of the deepest truth if I am giving credence to the body and the world. But Jesus didn't, and other masters didn't as well. Some probably went off in a cave and just went, bye. They're gone for 20 years, and perhaps, raising the consciousness of the planet from a private place. And the rest of us, I think, are asked to do our spiritual work and then show up in this life according to the guidance that we receive from knowing the truth of our being. So that's what I'm here for. As a minister, I thought I was just going to be able to be this font of spiritual wisdom and inspiration, throughout my career. And I found that most of my days I was administering the affairs and the business of the church. Surprise! And on Sunday, I got to do this, which is, I could be the light of the world. But then, as soon as I drove home, and I found that, the lawn needed to be mowed, and there was still work to be done at this level of life. So I want to read something to you. I have read this poem over and over again in my life, that it's a great reminder of how we possibly can do this seemingly schizophrenic role in the world. It's a poem by René Daumal, who's a French philosopher, no longer with us. He says, one cannot stay on the summit forever. One has to come down again. So why bother in the first place? Just this: what is above knows what is below, but what is below does not know what is above. One climbs, one sees, one descends and sees no longer, but one has seen. There's an art of conducting oneself in the lower regions by the memory of what one saw higher up. When one can no longer see, one does at least still know.
Amen.
So that's this journey. If you think about Jesus, how he sort of lived his life in this short time that he was ministering to the people, he would be with the people, and then after a time, even though the people were still pressing in upon him, in other words, there was still more work to be done on the level of the human, he would retreat and he would go into the mountains and he would pray. And he would do that on his own time. And then when he felt he was sufficiently prayed up, I suppose, then he would return and be back in service at the level of the human and the world. Perhaps there's no better advice for any of us than to follow some kind of a pattern like that in our own lives. Because don't we sort of know when it's time for us to retreat? I know for me, and if I don't know, my wife will remind me. Might be time to go sit quietly and refresh that understanding. Remember again. And we don't have to go to a temple even. We don't have to go to a holy place. But we do need to go into a quiet place within ourselves. I was challenged as a minister for so many years because I couldn't find that balance very well, and I often found myself overdoing and underbeing. I became very good at getting things done. And when you're running an organization, especially a larger one, it's never done. The to-do was always, there's more do-do on the to-do list. It's a never-ending doo-doo. And if you don't get the doo-doo done, it's not so much fun, you know? People remind you, you get a third email and a fourth email and a phone call. And so sometimes we lean into the pressure of the human life and do not give enough attention to the life that really sustains us and the life that guides us more unerringly through whatever it is we have to do here. I had a moment a week or so ago with one of you where I wasn't remembering who I was and I didn't act very well. And I needed to get back into my heart space and remember again and then do it over. And I'm just grateful for the people who have a capacity to be so grounded in their own knowing of who they are that they can overlook and forgive. That's what this path can lead to, is we can become more adaptable, and we can learn to remember who we are again and then do life better. That's, I think, what it's all about. So I'm going to read something, and I don't really like reading to you because I don't think that's, but I really wanted to leave you with the message of the day, and I decided to write a blog post yesterday, which I do every couple of weeks or so on my website. And I think this sort of wraps it up, this message, and then we'll be done. And then we'll maybe get some comments from you guys about how you do this balance. You've heard the expression many times that we humans are actually spiritual beings having a human experience, or incarnation. With the emphasis on the primacy of spiritual origin and nature, it's easy to succumb to the tendency to overlook the relative reality of human life, perhaps even denigrating our humanity and the human needs of the body, mind, and affairs. To do so is to confuse illusion with unreality. While it is true that at our essence we are spiritual beings, the relative reality of humanness in a physical world is our experience. Many spiritual traditions include the notion that the world as it is typically perceived is illusory or unreal. Taken as a fundamental tenet, a follower of this premise can fall into a form of nihilism and discount matters of human life as insignificant or even non-existent. Perhaps you've heard the expression of the notion, so heavenly minded that they were no earthly good. Been there. While this is not to bash spiritual practice and deepening, it is a call to contextualize spiritual understanding in our day-to-day human experience. It may be helpful to distinguish between illusion and unreality. Many spiritual traditions maintain that the world and the body are illusions or they are not real. Understood rightly, the world and the body are illusions, which means they are not what they appear to be, not that they are unreal. Our experience of the body and the world is real. We can't deny our experience. How can one have an unreal experience? This isn't to say that our experience is an accurate interpretation. When one observes an image of a mountain landscape on a display screen, one is not actually seeing the landscape. One can tap on the appearance and realize it is a screen. It's reality. The landscape is illusory, but there is a reality. The reality is the screen. Similarly, when one observes a lake in the desert, the lake is illusory. The reality of the appearance is not water, it's made of light. The water is the illusion, but there is a reality. The reality is light. And you may have heard of the oft-told parable of somebody seeing a snake on the ground in dim light. Believing they are seeing a snake, the person reacts with trepidation, and when the light increases, they see that what they thought was a snake is actually a rope coiled on the ground. Again, the snake was an illusion, but the appearance was not unreal. The reality of the experience was a rope. This distinction demonstrates the importance of recognizing the true from the false, but also eschews denial of appearances by way of spiritual absolutisms. While we are on this human divine journey, we will vacillate in our ability to perceive the deep truth in every situation. Having a balanced perspective permits us to being fully in the world, present to our physicality and our human needs, honoring our embodiment, people, circumstances, and conditions, while always seeking to realize, experience, and express the greater I am that we are. I believe this is what Jesus meant by be in the world, but not of it. In God we trust, but we see where? Where do we see that? Money. Out of money. Does not mean that dollars will fall from heaven like the manna reportedly did for the Israelites. While we're in this human experience, there are causes and effects, and it neither honors God nor aggrandizes our spiritual prowess, nor suggests that we simply pray without moving our feet. Yes, love God, and tie up your camel. So I know, since you already gave me your nods earlier, that you've struggled perhaps with this conundrum of balancing your spiritual prioritizing, making God number one in your life, let's just say it that way, and then having to deal with life on life's terms, because that's really what we wake up and do every day, isn't it? We swing our legs out and put our feet on the floor and we step into our day. In our day, we don't know what our day is going to bring. Maybe we do. Maybe there's things that we left, that we're already dealing with the day before. But you never really know what you're going to wake up to, do you? So how do we manage to feel like we're not abandoning our faith, or we're not abandoning our belief in trusting God, or trusting the divine, or trusting life, or however we want to, express this notion that there is something greater than this body, mind, and the world that's behind it all. Does anyone have a brief sharing around that? Ramdaya, and we'll get you next. Thanks. Ramdaya?
Well, the practice I do, but I'm not always successful, of course, is really consciously taking in, not just taking what I gain here out and trying to act it in life, but to actually realize that the stuff I'm having to do out there in life is also spiritual. Yes. That it's like the chocolate cured water. We don't need to have that separation between spiritual and daily life.
Beautiful. Great. Thank you. Ari?
I was going to say, a mentor of mine, when I was doing a lot of my studies, told me that knowledge is great, but if you have a lot of knowledge and you're not able to take action, I don't need this, I can project.
Well, it's for the Zoom
okay.
people. Yeah.
Okay. But that it's worthless. Having endless knowledge is not wisdom if you're not able to act upon the knowledge that you have. We should seek to have a balance of knowledge and action, things that we can put into action into the world. It is good to study, as well as it's good to take action, but you need to have that knowledge to have wisdom. We should seek a balance in the two. And I know I've been on both ends of that many times, and finding that balance is what I seek.
Thank you. Yes, yeah. The balance. How does anyone else achieve balance? Anyone else want to share? Is balance sometimes kind of like a relationship, like it's supposed to be 50-50, but like some days it's 90-10 and 10-90? Yeah. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. You're on. Yeah.
I often catch myself getting in a hurry and rushing through and starting to grumble, and then I'll stop and say, present, moment? Where's my gratitude? And then I will sometimes look at what's going on in the world, or I'll look at least I have a roof over my head, I have food in the refrigerator, and I look for the things to put me back in perspective that you're out here too much. And I get caught up in that. You need to go in more. And then I'll sit down and just take some deep breaths because I'm not breathing either when I'm doing that. So that's what I do.
So what I'm hearing is a sort of a self-awareness. Where
Self-awareness.
If you're just kind of going unconscious, then
Right.
you don't catch yourself. But if you check in now and then, like, this doesn't feel right, and then find out what you're needing. Sometimes what we need is just to go within, just get some quiet, and put that on the to-be list, put that in front of the to-do list for a moment. And Denise and I we've been together for so many years that we're really good at sort of reminding each other of that gently. It wasn't like years ago when I needed to run in order to get rid of my stress, and she put my shoes by the door. Not too, it's sort of subtle, but time for you to go.
And the other thing,
And don't come back. No, she didn't say that. Gotta run.
and the other thing is I have wonderful spiritual friends around me, the spiritual community, to say, hey,
Yes.
are you breathing right now? Or
Yes.
we're here to remind, or like the gently, be gentle. Often I've been told, lower the volume.
Yes.
You can say it quietly and calmly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, spiritual companions, nothing better, especially if they're gentle reminders for you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, we're gonna take an offering, but, and then we'll take a break. Let's see, should we do a little prayer? Let's do a little meditation, and then we'll do our offering. Just invite you to do what we've been talking about, which is to pause and do what you do to bring yourself into the awareness of your deeper nature, of your essence, of who you are at your depth. Who is the I am that you are, before you add anything to those two words? Just breathing into this sense of being. We don't always know what we are, but we always know that we are, don't we? How is it right now that you know that you are? With your eyes closed, without being able to visualize any form, don't you know that you are, that you exist? There's a sense of aliveness, awareness, consciousness. And is this awareness, this consciousness, is this something that comes and goes? Or is it something that's been there all your life? Does it have an age? Does it have a gender? Does it have any boundaries? So what is this timeless, boundaryless, nameless, formless knowing? Let's know this in the quiet now for a few moments. And this that is real is what is changeless. And this is who we are. And when we open our eyes, we bring this understanding, this memory of what we have seen in the higher reaches of our own consciousness back to this world. This to be the light in the world. To see rightly. To illuminate the dark places. To see the light in each other. And to know this is the light that never goes out. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine. So we bring this illuminated understanding back to this moment, to this time and this place, aware of those beings of light gathered around us and the work before us as light workers. To ground this understanding on earth as it is in heaven. To be the will and the way of the one, here and now. Thank you, God. Amen.